wanted to, we had a lot of stuff going on, so we wanted to make sure we're both caught up on the Ironheart series that just concluded. I want to say last week, and this I don't know if you knew this, MC, but the Ironheart show was actually completed 2 years ago. This thing has been sitting on the shelf for the last
Yeah.
2 years,
And
so you can in my opinion, you can tell when this thing was made because there was a lot of woke nonsense that was going on. Now, I do like some of the I'm not a big fan of the whole suit and everything, but I do enjoy seeing Iron Man suits. Like, even if it's like in a terrible show or whatever, I do like seeing the suits. So I think they did okay job with the final version of the suit. And I didn't, I've never read the comic, but from when I read it on the comic, though, it had a lot of hype when it came out, and then it just died down. And so Riri Williams she's a pretty new Marvel character. I want to say she came out like maybe, I know I'm gonna get caught up on this, but like 2018 or something, or 2015. It was very recent though, so you don't usually see a lot of new Marvel characters elevated so high, especially in like the Marvel universe. So there's some discussion to be had there too. But I think this was a bad product for the Marvel. Not as bad as some of the other ones that they have done, but I don't think this was a good product for them though, just because they put a lot of their own their I mean, again, their wokeness into this show. I think the woman that played Riri Williams, I think they made her very masculine. They made her very arrogant. So I don't know if that's how she is in the comics, but she's a very pretty girl. I saw her in some other movies that she's been in, and it's like, why do y'all do? And I noticed this a lot with black women is that when they put them in these some of these Marvel shows and some of these shows in general, they make them super masculine or they cut their hair off, which I know in Black Panther it actually worked, but it doesn't work for all the other shows that they put a lot of black women in. I'm like, stop doing that. I hate seeing that because your hair is your damn power. Like your hair is what gives you that feminine look. And but for Riri, I know she had her hair though, but I was like, is this Lil Wayne? Like she came across like she's like either 40 or 14. Like I don't know what was going on here, but I wasn't a big fan of some of the other side characters. But I'm gonna stop right there though before I get too far into it. Let's get your thoughts.
so I'm going to sound all over the place. I walked into it thinking I was going to hate it.
Sure.
And when I watched the first 3 episodes, and I get you got to set up stories, you got to set up backgrounds, explain characters, and all that stuff. And when I watched the first three, I thought my initial analysis was going to be correct. I thought it was going to be trash, but it picked up with the final 3 episodes, and I actually ended up kind of liking it. I do have a few problems with it though, and I do have a few problems with Marvel and Disney right now. Real quick, Tr. It looks like
Mhm.
the first time Riri made an appearance was in 2016 in Invincible Iron Man 2, Volume 7, if I'm reading this right on the Marvel Archive. So she is relatively new.
Yeah.
What's not relatively new is both Disney and Marvel doing unnecessary panders. I'm fine with Riri Williams' character. What I'm not fine with was, and this turned off a lot of people, was Slug. If you look at who Slug was in the, if you look at who Slug was in the comics versus who Slug was in the actual series,
Yep.
this is clearly either Disney or Marvel or possibly both either has a not understandable respect or a huge fear of the alphabet community. And I get they have power. They're one of the big four that I always talk about. But I didn't see any reason for them to take Slug and change the orientation and the race. I never understood why they do this. It was just odd to me. But I
Wait.
like the and there's probably going to be some spoilers in this conversation,
Oh,
folks.
if you ain't, yeah, spoiler. I should have said that at the beginning. This is not spoiler free. So
Yeah, yeah.
too bad, so sad.
I knew that they were either going to bring in Doctor Doom, Mephisto, or Dormammu as the main villain. Just I
Sure.
kind of saw it trending that way, so I was trying to guess which one would be which. and it ended up being Mephisto. I like the way he was introduced. I like the casting of the show itself, and the story picked up in those latter 3 episodes. But like you said, Tr, you can tell they had this in the chamber, and they just wanted to just let it out.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more impactful, but they Marvel kind of shot themselves in the foot with this. They killed Iron Man off too soon because there were so many other stories that they could have told. I know Robert Downey Jr. wanted to move on and do other
No,
things.
Kevin Feige killed off Iron Man. He made the decision.
Regardless, it was too soon. This would have been the perfect time for Iron Man to make some type of appearance to some degree because she's always going to be attached to Iron Man,
Hmm.
and they even acknowledged it with the love that her stepfather had for Iron Man. So
Well,
that
you know what?
clearly that's what she was inspired
I
by.
got to jump in here real quick.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm glad you brought that though, because this is the other thing. This is the other problem I have with Iron Man. They okay, and I know Ryan Coogler was involved with this. And then just a quick point of order. Did you know the Ironheart was directed, the first 3 episodes were directed by Samantha Bailey, and then the latter 3 were directed by Angela Barnes. Okay. And so Angela Barnes, well, Samantha Bailey, she's actually had a few, and I thought it was really weird. I was like, I've never heard of 2 directors for 6 episodes. I thought that was kind of interesting. But she's been involved with some other projects that, if you look at her and then you look at some of the things that she's directed, you would like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I think the most recent one was Dear White People. I never saw that. I meant to watch that because it made it sound like it was gonna be a comedy, but it might be something else.
You're
But
not going to like it, Tr, because they take little jabs at masculinity and
oh,
at times.
well, that tracks for how Ironheart is. And so when they and the other thing you mentioned, um, it it's connected to Tony Stark, but to me, they did everything they could that to discredit Tony Stark. Like if Tony Stark had if I had Tony Stark's millions or billions, and the meme I kept seeing going on, and maybe you've seen it too, or maybe you'll remember when I say it, is like Tony Stark built this suit in a cave.
Yeah.
Like that's 100%. And then and they took jabs at him at the beginning at the beginning of the episode, right at the beginning, within the first 5 minutes. So the people that were directing, I know Ryan Coogler was a part of this as well too. They did everything in their power to make sure that this is 100% about Riri, and I get all that, but Riri only exists because of Tony Stark, and she's making it sound like Tony Stark was like a nobody, and then Riri did a bunch of things that, I mean, she created like an AI system, an AI avatar just from a damn laptop from her brain. Like, and I know we gotta let some things slide, but come on, like
Well,
Tony
Marvel
Stark,
wrote her up to be one of the smartest people in the Marvel
right?
universe,
And
though.
I get all that, and that's in the comics, and I don't know if they follow the comics exactly, but here's the thing: is that they made it seem like she can do anything, and everything she tried to do, she just kind of messed it up, or she didn't know how she did any of this stuff. Like I think it was really silly when she said, everybody wants these Iron Man suits. I'm like, no, they don't. You're in a world where you can create a lot of other things, and you can make a lot of money, but they make it sound like that she's being oppressed or something. And they call it out at the beginning when she's getting expelled, but she's only getting expelled for the power outage. So it's not like she's being expelled for like the stealing of school and lab equipment or whatever stuff, the parts she said she was building for her Iron Man suit. But it's like a lot of things that were wrong regarding stuff like that. But I tell you the main point, and I'm glad you brought this up though, is you said her father was, he adored or liked Tony Stark and whatnot. Riri does not like Tony Stark like that. And also, I gotta say, they definitely took a jab at men, specifically black men, in this because the stepfather, and usually Disney kills off the mom, but in this case, it's a stepfather who gets murdered in his shop, and then Riri. I thought this was really messed up. They turned his car into the Iron Man suit. I was like, what are we doing here? Because Riri, she had 2 cars. She had that yellow car, and then she had her stepdad's car. Oh, we lost MC. All right, we are back. Technical difficulties. Looks like Disney did
Man,
not like that conversation.
seems like it. Man. But you were cooking, TR. You actually made a point that I wanted to jump in on if you want to just pick up where we left off. Um,
Where did we leave off at? Was the fathers?
yeah, you once I brought up the stepfather, you were about to go off on that one. If you want to just pick it up there.
Okay, yeah. So, all right. So, what I was saying about this whole stepfather or fathers and black men in general, like, look, white men, you were represented by the Jebediah. Je- I don't know the first dude. I think his name was his name Jebediah in the first Iron Man, the bad guy.
Oh, was it? Oh, I thought it was Obadiah. Hold on, let me
It
see.
might be Obadiah. Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, so you guys were represented in there, and that his son. I looked that up though. He is not represented very well in the comics. He comes off like a very, weird dude, awkward. Trying to, he had his father's ashes in there, and I was like, this is just a terrible
Yeah,
version of this guy.
Obadiah Stane, TR.
Okay,
Obadiah Stane.
Obadiah. Got it. Okay. Yeah, so his son is his representation in there, and I don't like how they were treating him for starters, because they just made him like the woman's like, his neighbor's dog is just, shitting in his yard and everything. He can't do anything about it, blah blah blah. And then he starts working on himself. I thought that was really weird, because the guy he hadn't shown anything. He was just collecting weapons, which is also another conversation. But he just starts working on himself, and then he gets popped, and yeah, he's already arrested, or he gets arrested because of Riri. But anyways, so that's just my whole point in there. But when it comes to, like, black men, there really isn't a black, when it comes to any black men in this whole series, they're deemed like in a negative light, because her stepdad, I mean, he cared for them, and by all accounts, Riri should have a good childhood, before he died. Riri should have a good childhood with him. But she sells off his cars. If he's the man that they said he was, they would never sell off his car. And she would never sell off her car, because she was like, I needed the money for the parts, blah, blah, blah. Tony Stark has all this money and everything. I was like, if you are the smartest person in the Marvel, one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe, there should be no problem for you to get money or work for a company making money. Like, there's just none. It's just a bunch of BS. It's just taking shots at, men again. And honestly, MC, I know this can sound kind of controversial though, but Ryan Coogler, I don't know if he should be doing Marvel movies. I'm with the, like, Kevin Feige should be done. I haven't seen the new Superman, but I've heard some things with it, with regarding James Gunn, his version of it. But a lot of these people that have been doing a lot of that have been directing multiple superhero movies, they're starting to lose their fastball on this stuff. So I wasn't a fan of the Black Panther 2 movie. I recently saw it, maybe like I saw it last year, and so it's been out for a while. Just because I was upset that they didn't recast the Black Panther. So hopefully they do in the next Black Panther movie. But I got questions, because Coogler was involved with this. He had his hands on this, and he was doing a lot of the videos. And I just don't think it was a good product for him. And I know a lot of people are going to say they got all these high ratings. Well, why isn't I getting a second season?
So you said a lot there. Let me go back. Number one, every problem that Riri had in that show was self inflicted. I think
Yeah,
we agree on that. And particularly, you talked about the way she kind of down talked Tony Stark. That's one of the 48 laws of power. You never outshine the master. If you picked up game and everything you know based on him inspiring you, it's probably not a good look to tarnish him. But I get it. Where I don't fully agree with you, you talked about the portrayal of men. Um, I think they were pretty good. There were two very good examples in The Stepfather, and then you also have, and I don't know if he was a love interest. I know he was. I know, she kind of had that love
the
interest
simp
thing
dude,
with her friend.
the simp
I,
dude,
I don't
he,
know if you want to
he
throw him
could
in the
have
sim
easily.
category. If you want to
No,
throw him in the sim category, go ahead.
yes, because
But
he could have easily had anybody else. I'm sorry, MC, but he could have had anybody else, and he was fixated on Riri, and Riri just kept pushing him and everything. So
I don't know
after.
if that's true, T.O. I don't know if I could rock with that.
All right.
They was kind of doing this passive aggressive thing where I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what to make of it, honestly.
Well, I thought she was. I mean, honestly, I thought she was playing the other side because they mentioned that a lot. They mentioned that
Oh, they
like,
slid that in. The mom slid that
yeah.
in for sure. But Ryan Coogler does great work. And I suspect this was an alley oop for those two directors that you just talked about because that happens a lot with Marvel. People will put their name on things just for the brand recognition. And then they'll actually put like an apprentice or somebody who they think is up and coming. And we have to remember the first Black Panther, that wasn't supposed to go to Ryan Coogler. Ava DuVernay was supposed to have that. Thank
Who?
God she gave it to him. Ava DuVernay.
Oh
She
man, they're going to give it. Okay, again, I know
if you
people.
look at the type of movies and some of the comments that she's made, I'm so glad she passed that off because Black
Holy
Panther did
crap!
$1 billion. And
Yeah.
I'll give Black Panther 2 some grace because Chadwick had stage 4 cancer. He didn't tell anybody. He passed away, and everybody had to scramble to kind of figure out how they wanted to deal with it while mourning him at the same time. I never heard anybody who worked with him say anything negative about him, and they all took it hard. So I'm willing to extend a little bit of grace there. But if you look at Ryan Coogler's record and the movies that he's done, I've got no complaints on his work. Even the Creed stuff, man.
No, no, no. This isn't about Ryan. Okay, so let me.
The reason why I'm saying that is I'm saying
Well, I'm
when
saying
I heard
I'm
he
okay
was
with Coogler.
associated with it, I stepped out on faith and said I'm gonna give this a chance because I've trusted his work. But again, this was something that they had sitting in the chamber for so long, and the timing of it, I don't know, it just seemed off. It just seemed off to me.
Yeah. So real quick, so on the Coogler thing, I think he's great on the other stuff. I'm just saying when it comes to superheroes, like I said, Kevin Feige, he needs to step down. Coogler, he has this amazing. I mean, he's given like BP1, amazing. BP2, not amazing. And I know it did crazy numbers at the box office still. That movie's
Not
supposed to
compared to
do a
one.
well, yeah, it's supposed to do $1 billion. It did not do $1 billion. So there's something to be said there. And Disney just ever since, I mean, I think after the first one, Dooms or after Endgame, that was one of the first movies that came out after Endgame. So you have Black Panther 2. They could have recasted him, they should have recasted him. This storyline of them going after Submariner and the ending sequence, I have a lot of issues with that. But at the end of the day, though, Coogler, I this will be the third or second movie where he is a Marvel or a superhero movie, not to the level where Black Panther 1 was at. And then he's going to get a third one. So we'll see see what he does with the Black Panther 3. And they've got to recast Black Panther. You cannot go with Shuri being Black Pantheress and that being an okay thing. Like I don't care who you bring in, you got plenty of black men to play back Black Panther 2, and you guys picked his sister and you want to pay homage. You could have easily did that. How many times have we seen a different version of I know this isn't Marvel, but we saw like three different versions of that wizard in Harry Potter. Like like we see different version of characters all the damn time. And so people were like, well, we got to make sure we, pay homage to him. I'm like, you can give him end credit. You could have did multiple things. You could have, I mean, like I said, I know it made money, but there's going to be a lot riding on Black Panther 3. So I think Coogler is good for all those other movies, but we're starting to see in my opinion, we're starting to see some decline. And so, that's my opinion. I know that's going to be very unpopular though, but the people that were and the rest of the people that were involved with this, like I forget the lady's name I just said, not Samantha Bailey, but Angela Barnes. All if you look up their record, if you look up their movies they've directed and cast, they all run into like a little circle. And so when you brought up the Slug guy, you know who brought Slug in was the chick, Angela Barnes, who
Oh, I
directed
forgot.
the last three. So she brought him in. She said, because I watched the video, and she said, "Oh, I was a fan of her, whatever he calls himself, was a fan of them, and then he had won like RuPaul's Drag Race or whatever it is. That's why he was so. That's how he showed up. That was the first movie he's ever been in." And so they were like, we're his biggest fan. And then they wanted him to come in and do a, fight for the cast or fight or do like a reading or whatever it is called. So, but they wanted him no matter what. He was gonna get that part no matter what. This wasn't like it might happen. No, he was definitely getting the part. So they definitely rock with the same people in their circle, and I'm okay with that because we see it in a lot of other movies though. But it's starting to we're starting to see some cracks in the armor because Tony Hart, the Iron Suit armor. But this is not getting a season two. So at least as of now, it's not been said they're going to do a season two.
So here's my thing. You think Ryan Coogler is the one that needs to go? I think Kevin Feige is. Marvel, this new phase of Marvel doesn't really have a lot of people excited. That was
Sure.
that was apparent with Thunderbolts. That was apparent with Captain
Yep.
America: Brave New World, both of which I liked, by the way.
I haven't seen
But
Thunderbolts, but I did like Brave New World.
I didn't think I would like Thunderbolts either. But I walked in thinking, I just thought I was just going to watch it to keep up with what was going on. But I ended up liking it. I like them both, but for some reason, people are not excited about this current phase of Marvel. And to a degree, I get it. In a perfect world, I like the original. I call them the originals. I like the Bruce Banners. I like the Steve Rogers. I like the original characters. When you bring in the next gen Marvel, it just doesn't have the same effect with me. That's about the time I stopped reading comic books. That's about the time I stopped following comics, at least the animated shows. So I never got into the New Mutants or the New Avengers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But I will say this about Ironheart, and I realized this pretty quick when I was reading reviews on Facebook. A lot of people that were trashing it didn't even watch it, so they were giving it terrible ratings without actually watching it and doing any type of analysis on it. So
sure.
I couldn't take I couldn't take those reviews I had to take them with a grain of salt, basically.
Yeah, and I knew the ratings were going to be bad just because of someone like when they first started talking about Ironheart before they had made a casting decision. They said that this whoever's going to play Riri Williams is going to be trans. Like those are the stories that were coming out, so they're already they already got off to a rough start, and then her not being one of like it's a brand new character, and I get it if everybody likes the new character, but she wasn't cleaning it up on the books. So I don't understand why
Mm-hmm.
Marvel thought that was going to be a good thing, but it tracks though because that was during the summer of love 2020, and then a lot of white apologists, white guilt, they felt bad, and they was like, well, we got to make sure we have accurate representation. You do. You could have made War Machine. You could have made a War Machine show, or you could have made another Luke Cage show. You had plenty of
Both of which
black
did well.
actors. Yeah, you had plenty of black. I mean, the new Captain America, or you had plenty of black actors you could have picked from. If you want to pick from for black women, you could have just made a Storm spinoff, or really the real reason that I'm really upset about the whole why they didn't recast him because Captain or not Captain, but Black Panther and the Storm story. They're supposed to bridge the whole X-Men and Wakanda conversation or story arc, but we're never going to see that. They could have easily. I mean, we need to see another version of Storm on the big screen. Holly Berry is amazing, but we can get another Storm that goes another level. And Storm is one of the best X-Men characters out there. So she has an amazing story arcs with multiple other characters, especially with Black Panther. So they need to be thinking about that when they do the next Black Panther movie.
I would expand on that a little bit more. The X Men is going to be Marvel has to hit a home run with the X Men because they're on life support right now.
Yeah,
Like people are not watching like they used to. I don't care what anybody says; they're not. They got to hit a home run with X Men. That's their last chance. They are clearly all in on X Men being a central piece to this next phase. So hopefully
yeah,
they get it right. In my opinion, they've yet to cast Storm like a good Storm. In my opinion,
yeah.
but I like a lot of those old X Men movies. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we'll be covering Fantastic Four, which comes on in a few weeks as well. They need to hit a home run with that, and I've been
Yeah,
hearing some unsettling things about it, but I'm still going to watch it just because I'm still a Fantastic Four fan. So,
no doubt.
all right, we are going to jump to the next topic.